Hello everyone! I am putting together some collage fodder for my page-a-day glue book, and I wanted to come on and give you a little pep talk about collecting little bits of paper to glue into glue books. You do not need magazines. You can use any type of paper. I enjoy making my own unique collage fodder for glue books, and this is basically what this is going to be. Just a really quick run through on some different things that you can use and collect to use in your glue books. So it's just a beginning. I just started putting some things in here. There are a few magazine images, but a lot of what I have is just random things that I come across in day-to-day life or whatever, pieces that are left over from other projects and things like that. This is a piece of wrapping paper, a piece of, I guess it's a pad of paper, drawing paper. It's the cover, and somebody had drawn a flower or something. So I thought that was kind of cool. I just kind of ripped it up into little bits and will probably use that for something. I really like the patterns on security envelopes, and I have quite a few of those. Love them. A maze book, tissue paper. Here's some gum wrappers, foil and just regular paper, scrapbook paper, and I will get into that just a little bit later. This is a border off of a takeaway menu. I saw that and thought that was cool. I do just come across little bits of things when I am messing around or just, living life, basically. Packaging. Look at your packaging and such. And I do keep larger bits together. I separate smaller bits because sometimes they're hard to find in the big. They get kind of lost. They get lost and they're hard to find. When I want something real small, I will put something in there. So the first thing I want to say, in general, you want to collect things that interest you. You do not want, if you do not like snakes, don't collect snakes to put in your glue book. You're not going to enjoy looking at your pages when you come across a snake. It's just, choose things that you like. Look at things differently. Things that catch your eye, like a piece of packaging or whatever. This menu, it just kind of caught my eye. I thought that might be kind of cool as a little border somewhere. So I went ahead and just threw it into a shoebox. So just collect things that interest you, that catch your eye. Collect colors that you enjoy. If you get a connection with your collage fodder, you're going to like your collages, your glue books so much better in the end if you like all the little bits that you're putting on there. Don't just collect things just because you can if it doesn't really do anything for you. All right. So as general, you want to collect things that you like, things that you enjoy, things that interest you, things that catch your eye, make you stop, things that you can see. You want different size pieces. You want larger bits. You want some small things. You don't want everything to be exactly the same size. You want different colors. You want different types of paper. You want to contrast a little bit. You start putting a bunch of stuff together. Things are going to be hard to find. You need some neutral things. And what I mean by that, most of my stuff I would call neutral, not necessarily a neutral color like beige or white or whatever, but neutral meaning things that go well with everything. It can be a color, it can be whatever. I would consider some of these things pretty neutral, plain. And the reason you want neutral, things that don't contrast too much, is because when you start getting collage fodder, or you start putting things together, if things are, you got some really cool things and you start putting all these really cool things together, I'll just put that there. It kind of starts blending in together. You don't really see everything you want to see. It's a little crazy. It's a little wild. It's, you lose stuff. You lose some of the details of things. But if you were to put in some neutral bits, I like book text. I love book text. I use book text for everything because it is not eye-catching. It blends into the background, and then when you put something, on top of it that you really like and you really want to be able to see again, it's easier to see that something, whatever it may be. You may not see that on something else. I guess that's pretty neutral, but you know what I'm saying here. Even this is, even though it's a color, it's pretty neutral. You can see the pieces that are on top of it, as long as they're not some of the same. Well, I guess that's okay, but that's the thing I'm talking about. Neutral pieces. And when I do a glue book page, I use quite a few neutral bits to really make the things that I like stand out. See, I really like this. And it is bold. It's got a lot of really crazy colors to it. But when I start putting, other things that have a lot of color to them, it loses its interest, is what I'm saying. So it really depends on what you put together that makes the page. Neutral, plain things are key when putting together glue books. You want to see those special little bits. You don't want them to be lost in all the excitement of everything else. So neutral. And neutral, like I said, book text. I like foreign book text the most because I can't read it, and I don't get, my brain doesn't see words and start reading and then get distracted. I like book text because it just kind of blends into the background and you don't really notice it. Patterns, grids. I like the patterns from security envelopes. Some scrapbook paper is good if it's not got too much contrast to it. If it's just, something kind of like this, not too much. Put those in there before I lose them. Here's a plain piece of paper with just a line on it. I just kind of liked it. I like that it's a weird shape. I like that it's just a line, and it would be kind of cool just as a piece of background. it works. I do like large text in different colors. I like lighter colors. I'm not big on black in the background. It really makes it hard to put things on top of black a lot of times. Large print in newspapers or magazines, when you rip up those, you can't really tell what letters they are, but it just kind of makes some interest in the background. So here's some wrapping paper, some paper with a little bit of coffee dyed splatters. You can do paper with watercolor splatters, you know, just some neutral little bits. And that I would consider, it might be a little too much contrast on the paper. It might, you know, distract from whatever, but it's neutral enough for me anyway. So when you're collecting, collect neutral things, different size pieces, different colors, different types of paper. Make sure you like the stuff that you're collecting and the colors that you're collecting. And after you've collected a little bit, I've got some things here. Before you start gluing, after you've collected, you want to kind of make sure that they are glue ready. Your little bits are glue ready. This came from a piece of junk mail, and I really liked the image, but I'm not real fond of all the little words and stuff around it. So I am, before I even start gluing, I am just going to rip those off and make sure that when I am ready to glue, and I kind of like that little 17 there, when I'm ready to glue, all I have to do is grab it, put some glue on it. It's ready to go. It saves time. It makes it a lot easier. And so I would do that with just about anything. If I need to fussy cut something, I do fussy cut things. That's probably a fussy cut thing. I do fussy cut ahead of time. That's probably a fussy cut as well. I saw that in a magazine or something and thought that was pretty cool, but I don't need all this other stuff. So I just kind of want to randomly rip, and I don't want it exactly square. I just kind of want a different shape for it. And I don't like that dark bit right underneath it, so it is ready to glue down. And it's an interesting little piece. So I do sit in front of the TV or whatever at night when I've got a minute and go through my basket of collected things and just make sure that they are ready to glue down. Now this one, I really like that face, but I hate that red bit there. And so I cut it away in a way that works for me. And I might cut this one a little bit differently so that they're different. But I make sure my pieces are ready to glue down when I'm ready. Okay? So let's get into making some collage fodder that's unique to you. Number one, let's go over here because this will be faster. Here's some printouts. My computer or my printer decided to mess up when I was doing some printing. It didn't work for what I was trying to print out, but it's pretty cool. And so I can rip that up to make little bits of collage fodder. I don't always like straight edges, so sometimes I do. So then I have a little bit of collage fodder to use. And I'll do the same thing with that. So things that are printed out that didn't work quite right, not a problem. Rip it up for your glue books. I do enjoy coffee dyeing things, and it kind of makes your pieces unique to you. Here is something that fell out of a magazine. You get to choose what magazines you want or something. It's very white. I really like the numbers. It's very neutral. Really like it a lot. But it's too stark white for me, and so I just sprayed a little bit of coffee on it. I make up some instant coffee in various shades. Sometimes I make it dark and sometimes I make it kind of light. For something like this, I would do a light coffee or even a tea. Tea tends to be just a little bit more yellow. But then I put the coffee in a spray bottle and just spray it and let it set to dry overnight. And then I come up with a piece of collage fodder that I like. It's interesting. You get variations in things, and it makes it unique to you. I do like puzzle books, and so I've sprayed a bunch of different things. This one is a piece of scrapbook paper. Again, the black and white it's kind of cool, but it's way too contrasted. So I did add a little bit of watercolor and some coffee and toned it down a little bit. And you can't see the real color in the camera, but it's toned down. It's more interesting. And I do like the fact that it's not perfect. Perfect is boring. I like that it's got splatters in it. It's got some variations of color, and it's not quite as blaring white as it used to be. Those color books that you have that you didn't finish and probably never will are great for glue books. You can tear out pages, coffee dye if they're too white, put a little bit of watercolor, splatter watercolor. I do splatter watercolor a lot on pieces of paper. Just splatter it, let it dry. I usually do it, in the afternoon and let it dry overnight. I have a shower curtain on my floor. I just spread out whatever I want to spray, spread it out, and just fill up my spray bottle with, watercolor, put a little bit of water in and you take a brush and add some watercolor so it's not too dark, or a little bit of coffee or whatever I want to spray, and just spray both sides, let things splatter. I let things pool. When you hold a piece of paper and spray it, it wrinkles and it kind of, does weird things. It doesn't want to lay flat when you put it down. And that is the perfect way to do things, because if you have puddles of color, they dry really interesting. They don't look like anything as puddles, but they really make some cool things. So I love to spray color onto, and like I said, these are leftover bits of paper from some pages that I had torn. And, you can see the spray marks. It makes it really interesting. It makes a color book page interesting. Pool, let the pools dry. I leave great big huge pools and they dry overnight. Of course, I live in Florida. It is cooler right now and they're still drying overnight. So here's another one. just a receipt book that I have. It is pretty boring all by itself, but you put some color on it, it makes very interesting, unique collage fodder. You just tear it up. It's kind of neutral. It would be great in backgrounds. Things would look really good on it. There's a guest check that I did some scrapbook paper, kind of made it my own. And book text, love spraying stuff on book text. Coffee makes new pages look kind of vintage, which is kind of nice. And that's just a piece of paper that was white, and now it's got some interesting bits to it. I love to spray little bits down. So there's that. Another thing to do is go to your rubber stamps and find images that you like. You can stamp stuff in black or a color on little bits of paper. Use that as something to glue into your glue books. You have all these rubber stamps. I know you do. Use them. When's the last time you looked at them? What you don't even know. You probably don't even know what you have. I mean, I know I don't know what I have. So I use different types of paper to glue, to stamp things, book text and magazine color and tissue paper, because I like to be able to see some of what is underneath tissue paper. I really like stamping on tissue paper. But those are images that you can use in your glue books. Really easy, easy, easy. Go into stamping. Not only can you use images, but you can use those handmade stamps. I like to hand make my own stamps. If you've watched me at all, you've seen my handmade stamps. I have quite a few of them. So I like just little patterns. The leaves. I like these kinds of things. So I get little bits of paper, again, pieces of paper that I may have taken off pages that I was making, or pieces of envelope from junk mail. I recycle everything. And I wouldn't necessarily use black all the time. Since these are green and blue, I think I'm going to use a blue. And I'm not going to refill my stamp every time, so that some of them are darker, some of them are lighter. A variety makes them more interesting. The less perfect, the more interesting they are. So this would make very interesting collage fodder. It's unique. Only you have made something like that. And you can use any type of paper. This one is a piece of tracing paper that actually I sprayed with some watercolor. I'm going to use, I don't want it too contrasty, so I'm not going to use black. Didn't get that done very well. It's very light, but it will work for what I'm doing. And again, it's a very unique to you kind of thing. You get out your own stamps, your own handmade stamps, and go to town. Here's one that I did with a neutral color. Sorry, autofocus. Having trouble with the autofocus. Really? Honestly, I've had this trouble for such a long time. There we go. This is a neutral color, and I just stamped this pattern randomly. So it's not really dark. Again, I really like neutral pieces. So that is exactly what I need. So I don't always use black because black can put contrast on there that I don't really like. If I do use black, I use it a lot so that it kind of wears down and it's not really, really dark, but it still makes a cool pattern. So there's a lot of things in there that I have done. Here's some circles. You know, I like the circles. I've done quite a few of them. So that makes an interesting little bit of collage fodder. Something fun to glue down. And you will be the only person that has a piece that looks just like that. Okay? So stamp away. Do you. Use your own unique stamps and things. So I'm running out of room here. Another thing, put that over here. Another thing I like to do is use stencils or sprays. This is a fly swatter that I got at the Dollar Tree. Took the handle off of it. It has a cool little pattern. And that's just a cross-stitch mesh. I really like the circle one, but I couldn't find it. So you get your sprays out there or a spray bottle with some watercolor or coffee and just do a little bit of spraying. Of course, I picked one that's broken. I didn't test it ahead of time. Darn. Let's see if this one will work. Just spray lightly. And you have your own patterns. Make sure you use up all that ink. So how cool is that? Again, I like to layer things up, so I'll do some stamping, I'll do some spraying, and make those pieces completely unique to you. Okay? And you don't need any fancy stencils. You can use your stencils or whatever, and you've got some patterns that you can use. All right. Go back to my list of things. And here's some little bits of paper that I sprayed and that I could very easily stamp on top of. This poor stamp pad needs a refill. Again, there's an interesting a little bit of Collage Fodder. Poor thing got all wrinkled up. And I like to do this on another piece of paper so that I'm not wasting anything. And then I have an interesting underpaper at the end. This is one of my favorite ways to make collage fodder. I really enjoy the way that looks. All right, let's get the stamps out of here. I think I'm done with stamps and stencils. Actually, no, I'm not. That one up here. Here is another watercolor little bit. I like to put some watercolor down, and I didn't set this up ahead of time. I'll put a little bit of water in a dish like that, and get my little watercolors out. I put watercolor on the page and then add little bits of things with pattern, and then I get variations in the page. Usually I do the whole page and then I set things in it, let it dry overnight, weight it down, let it dry overnight. This is the drain. This one is a Lego board. I like the circles on the back of that. Obviously, I've used it a few times. The circles, the polka dots on this side are cool too, but you can see the circles on that. This one is bubble wrap, and I do like the little polka dots that makes. And this is this grid. It didn't really do a square. It did a funny little polka dot that it obviously had other colors on it, so it wasn't great. And then this is a piece of packaging, and I'm not sure what I bought, but it's 24 pieces, but it's a piece of plastic that has these circles on there, and I just set it into the watercolor and let it dry on its own. So I will, here, let me just rip that off. So when all is said and done, I can just rip this and have a very interesting piece. And I'll just rip all those others and have some very interesting colors. So all I do is get some water in a dish. I'm sorry about the focus thing. I cannot get the autofocus to turn off and not be blurry, so I'm kind of stuck with just making these videos that are jumping all around, and I do apologize. So I put a little bit of color in that water, not too much water. See if I can leave that there so it has something to focus on. And then I brush that water down on the page so it's pretty wet. Sometimes I add some other different colors to it, and then I add whatever I want to add, and I weight it down with a bottle or whatever, and I let it set overnight, and when I come back, it's got interesting patterns on it. But usually I do the whole piece of paper to put different things down, and it turns out very interesting. This one's going to be a very interesting one. And it's always fun to use this kind of thing as stencils. Get some ink and a makeup sponge and just make some polka dots. And then you can brush some color over that, make it interesting. Some purple. Let it dry. Makes it pretty cool. Interesting colored paper. Splatter. So I'm going to leave you with that for now. There's many other ways to make collage fodder. Let me just use up this paint while I'm talking. So many different ways, and I will come back in January and talk about some of the other ways to create your own unique collage fodder. I'm going to stick the bubble wrap on there while it's really, really wet, and then I will weight it all down, and I will do a reveal the next time I come on. You can see how cool it is. Actually, I should probably put a little bit more color on there. So it's cool. All right. So that's what I will do. I will come back and let you see how this all dried up, and we can tear it up into little pieces of collage fodder. So to leave you, you don't need magazine images. Make sure that you have different types of paper, different size pieces, that your pieces are ready to glue down before you start gluing. You need some neutral bits, and that doesn't mean all beige or all white. It just means things that are plain enough that can go with a lot of different stuff. You need different colors and different types of paper, and the sky is the limit. As long as it's gluable, you can put it in a glue book. Go into your painted papers stash and see what you've got, and rip up little bits for your glue books. They're fun to add. So I will leave you with that. Until next time, thanks for watching.